Do you love going to Broadway shows, but can't go now because Broadway's closed? Join tour guide Tim and Belasco too as they bring Broadway history to you. Grab your Broadway passport for what's in store on your Virtual Broadway Tour.
Built as the most intimate of the three theaters in the Chanin Brothers landmark theatrical complex, this week's theater, the John Golden, originally opened as the Theater Masque in February of 1927, just 1 month after the adjoining Royale, now the Jacobs. Though Herbert J. Kraft designed the two theaters with the same light-colored brick facade and matching pergolas, the more intricate details allowed each theater to have its own identity. The original intent was for the Theater Masque to be a showplace for fine plays of high artistic quality, and with the intimacy of only 799 seats, it would be one of the smallest theaters in the area. Economically, it would have been a risk to build such a small theater as a freestanding building, but as part of their complex, the Chanins felt confident it would be a welcome, novel addition to the theater district. Unfortunately for the Chanin brothers, things got off to a rocky start at the Theater Masque. The show's opening production of Puppets of Passion lasted a total of 12 performances and was quickly followed by 3 years of flops. In 1930, with the Great Depression upon them, Irwin and Henry Chanin sold their theater complex to the Shuberts and turned their back on the industry they had helped expand in the few short years they were a part of it. Thankfully, all 6 Kraft-designed theaters they built still stand today. Hoping to revive the theater with some new energy, producer John Golden leased it from the Shuberts in 1937. A true man of the theater, Golden began his career as a lyricist before eventually becoming a producer. He was known for producing a type of theater he called chap, clean, humorous American plays, and he believed the Intimate Theater Masque would be a great venue for this. On February 2nd, 1937, he officially bestowed the marquee with his name, the third Broadway theater to carry the name Golden. While John Golden would make a fortune over his 46 years in show business, sadly, not much of it was made at this theater. In 1946, he parted ways with this theater, leaving nothing in his wake but his name on the marquee. Ironically, at one point when the Golden did host a hit production, it seems everyone was unprepared for such an occurrence. When Angel Street, a Victorian thriller, opened at the theater, the producers had printed only 3 days' worth of playbills. They scrambled to print more for what ended up being a 1,295 performance run, making it the longest running non-musical in the Golden's history. In 1992, composer William Finn's revolutionary Tony Award-winning show Falsettos began performances at the Golden. An amalgamation of 2 off-Broadway shows, Falsettos was the first musical to deal with the AIDS epidemic. Tackling death and disease, these issues hit close to home for many involved with the show, including Finn. He would arrive at the theater for rehearsal having come from hospital visits with friends infected with the disease. In 1992, when the show opened, 194,476 people had died of AIDS in the United States. In 2011, the Golden hosted a revival of another historic play written in the early years of the AIDS epidemic, The Normal Heart. Written by playwright and activist Larry Kramer, the play originally premiered off-Broadway at the Public Theater in 1985. While Falsettos was infused with humor and warmth amid the darkness, The Normal Heart featured a much more visceral, angry response to the disease. In the years since The Normal Heart first premiered, over 35 million people across the globe have died of AIDS. Through it all, one person continued his fight for awareness: playwright Kramer. Following many performances of the revival, teary-eyed audience members came face to face with Kramer, who personally handed out letters reminding them that the war against AIDS still wasn't over. 76 years after Puppets of Passion opened the theater, a new set of passionate puppets moved in. Avenue Q opened in 2003 and would become the longest running show in the Golden's history. Presented as a Sesame Street parody for adults, the show addressed the trials and tribulations of contemporary life in New York City. In the spring of 2004, the small musical found itself up against the blockbuster hit Wicked in the Tony Award race for Best Musical. It's no secret that shows had been discreetly campaigning amongst the Tony voting community for years. Avenue Q's producers, in the style of their quirky musical, bombarded Tony voters with pizza parties, show-themed buttons, and even hilarious newspaper ads. Their approach paid off. On awards night, Avenue Q nabbed the Tony Award for Best Musical in one of the biggest upsets in Tony Awards history. Avenue Q ended up logging 6 years on Broadway before becoming one of the first musicals in Broadway history to move back to where it started, off-Broadway. And all these years later, with billions of dollars in ticket sales, it seems that Wicked did just fine anyway, Tony Award or not.
Hello! Happy Saturday noon on Broadway. Can you believe it's already Saturday again? I think I say this every week, and I've said this for 31 weeks of these Saturdays, but it really, I don't know what happens in between the time I see you. A lot happens, but also I feel like nothing happens. But welcome back. This is our Saturday Noon on Broadway live interview coming to you as part of our Virtual Broadway Tour Series every single week during this insanity of our lives of this Broadway shutdown. This week, I am so excited to bring you the incredible Barbara Walsh from Falsettos at the theater we've been featuring all week, which of course is the John Golden. For those that aren't familiar with me or Broadway Up Close, my name is Tim Dolan. I'm an actor and the owner of Broadway Up Close walking tours in New York City. For the last 11 years, we have been hitting the sidewalks of Times Square, telling you all the things you didn't know that you really want to know about our 41 Broadway theaters. I have an entire green team that are full of actors and stage managers that are your windows and your eyes to the world, to all of our theatrical insanity. We have 5 exterior tours that we've been offering for the last 11 years. And then in October of 2019, a year and a half ago, which I can't even believe it was a year and a half ago, we opened our first interior tour of Broadway's oldest theater, the Hudson, which has been there 118 years. And so those are our 6 experiences, as we call them. With COVID-19, 5 of them are still open, which is our exterior tours, masked, socially distanced, very private. If you're looking for a staycation or you happen to find yourself on vacation in the middle of New York City, head our way. Our Hudson Up Close tour, we anticipate will reopen when Broadway reopens, whenever that is. For information on all of those tours, you can head to BroadwayUpClose.com. You should do that after we're done talking to Barbara, and then go and maybe join us on a sidewalk. We also have a whole slew of virtual tours that if you want to sit on your couch and join me in front of my 1910 brick wall, from my couch to yours, we have those as well. And then I own a gift shop in the middle of Times Square. As if I don't have enough things going on, I was like, let's open a gift shop. Sure. So we have a 60 square foot little green box in the middle of Times Square, currently stationed in front of the Lion King, with a 6 foot tall Broadway sign that is 150 light bulbs with ginormous marquee letters that spell out our favorite word, which is Broadway. All of that has closed on March 12th, 2020 because of COVID-19. So all of that has moved onto our e-commerce platform. So you can get all of that. I'll give you a discount code at the end. So make sure you stay to the end and we'll give you a couple bucks off. When this all started, March 12th, 2020, it's crazy to me that we're coming up now on the 1-year anniversary of it. Is a thing that I never really thought I'd be doing in my life. I'm looking back now at the calendar last year of sales and how things were going, of the start of the new year and the hope for a glorious year. And well, that went quickly down the tubes. So this, there's a little less optimism this year, but we're still keeping it alive. We were missing you guys, so I thought we'll come online. We'll do 1 theater every week. That'll be 41 theaters. That'll be 41 weeks. That'll get us to almost April of 2021. And I thought by the time we're done, Broadway will be reopened. This will be great. And then, well, we know that's definitely not going to happen. So here we are, week 31, the John Golden. It's the 31st oldest theater. I hope you've enjoyed all the history, the fun facts, all the insanity from this week. How's today going to work? For today's series, we'll talk all about Barbara's theatrical journey, her time working on Falsettos and 8,000 other bajillion other Broadway shows. If you have any questions for her or me along the way, drop them in the comments. And for those that are joining us live, as you're doing now, which makes me very happy, comment with where you're watching us from, and then we can know where our stories are going today. And so, without further ado, join me in welcoming Broadway's Barbara Walsh.
Hello.
Dum, da, da, da. How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
I'm like all of us. We're sort of in the middle of the muck and the uncertainty, and yeah, missing live theater deeply. Doing it, seeing it, just having it in our lives, in other than virtually.
Yeah, yes. Other than in a little rectangle with
Yeah, which
audio
is
delays.
I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful
Sure.
for, I mean, think if this pandemic had happened 10 years ago before we had the technology, we wouldn't see our people. We would do anyway.
Yeah,
It'll
I've
be
never really
fine.
thought about that. It is the
Yeah.
perfect. It's if there's going to be a pandemic, I guess this is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I like
crazy
that
even to hearing that,
optimism.
but
Correct, but
silver
here we
lining,
are.
I don't know.
Correct, something. Okay, so for those who don't know you or aren't lucky enough to know you or have lucky enough to see you in one of your bajillion shows, will you get us Barbara Walsh pre-New York City? So where you
Sure.
grew up, if you went to school, when you first started liking theater, did
Yeah.
you go to college for it? Just get us to New York City and you set your bags down.
Okay. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., in Chevy Chase, Maryland. I am one of 8
Sure.
children, 4 girls and 4 boys.
And where do you fall in line,
The
front or
5th
back?
child, sort of in the middle child
Great.
syndrome, has always been
Great.
a burden. I see both sides of everything, but anyway, we were all incredibly fortunate and lucky to be loved and well brought up by 2 amazing, decent, wonderful, beautiful people.
Sure.
We had the privileges of, you get away from all of that and you go, oh yeah, white privilege. Hello, that's me. I mean, it's insane, right? And then you
Yeah.
go, well, let's crack that open a little bit. But that aside, so I was very shy growing up, in a large family. I was sort of not intimidated, but kind of lost in the shuffle. I mean, I didn't think anything of it. I was quite happy,
Sure.
And then in high school, one of my girlfriends said, hey, let's go audition for Hello Dolly at St. John's Military Academy. That's a high school where I had 2 brothers went to, and they did this
Okay.
thing called the Mask and Wig, and that was their theater department. And they were having auditions for Hello Dolly. My friend Michelle, who told me about it, she got the part of Dolly Levi, and I was in the chorus. Actually, I told her about it. That's why the punchline didn't work, because I set it up wrong. But
Yeah,
anyway,
wait. No, please.
so theater became my thing in high school. It was like, oh my gosh, this is something I really love. I wasn't the best student. I think there's a little ADD going on. I was always looking out the window because I was a Walsh in grade school. So I was in the back. The W was in the back of the thing
Oh,
with the
yeah.
nuns and all that whole thing.
Sure.
But high school was profound because not only did I do shows sort of back to back from sophomore year through senior year at the boys' high school, but at Visitation Preparatory School down in Georgetown. That's where I went to high school with the nuns. And I also kind of came out of my shell because I realized I had this ability to mimic people, to like do their mannerisms and their walks and their facial expressions. And I became drunk on the drug of laughter. And
Yeah, well,
so
sure.
I opened up, and also I had an amazing teacher named Margaret Elder, and she taught a class called Man and His Arts. So all of a sudden, after being like a D student and a C student and having to work really hard for a B minus, I was an A student because I was studying creative writing and literature. And I
Sure.
had to I had to recite in front of everyone the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, which I still can do in Old English.
Come on.
Because why not?
Special skills.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. And all of those things opened me up. I started smoking. I was popular. I mean,
Oh, wow. This took a turn.
Yeah, I got caught smoking. I was in trouble. And I was like, yes.
So basically, you're Sandy Dombrowski from Greece.
Yeah.
And theater is your Danny Zuko. Suddenly, you're like,
yeah.
really walking around in hot pants. Okay.
Yeah. So
incredible.
That's high school. And I from there I went to a community college in Maryland called Montgomery College. It's which I don't even have an associate's degree from. And I'll just be very honest with you. I went from there where I had to drop all my academic stuff because I was fully ensconced in the music and drama departments. So I got, played Annie Sullivan and Lydia Emerson and all these amazing roles. What's her name in Dames at Sea? Mona Kent. I had a ball doing all those roles. And from there, I did dinner theater at the Harlequin Dinner Theater for 3 years. And I consider that my grad work because, I literally was so busy doing one role at night while I served drinks, as Aldonza. And then during the day, I'd be in rehearsal for Winifred and Once Upon a Mattress. So I had this humongous deluge of experience that I was getting on many, many levels, but mostly.
And your parents, are your parents supportive of all of this? Are they?
Oh yeah. I mean, prior to me coming out of my high school shell, I would be at home singing, and actually I was mimicking like Shani Wallace and Joan Diener and all the Broadway people, but it was when no one else was in the house. I know with 8 children, you'd think someone would be home other than the dogs, but really there was a pocket of time where I was like, I'm gonna go home and sing in the hall on the staircase.
Come on.
And then I was very shy. And then sometimes I got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna sing anyway. And they would shut up, my brothers.
Of course.
So that was sort of, the beginnings. And then let's see. So
and then you go from there. Is it
from dinner theater?
Dinner theater's going well. Do I go right to New York?
There's summer stock in between. It's the summer stock of the Wagon Wheel Playhouse in Warsaw.
Come on, Wagon Wheel in Indiana,
Warsaw,
right?
Indiana, that's right.
Yes. It's still
Is it? No. Is it still?
I think the costume designer has come on many of our tours, and one of my best friends, Alex, who's done a number of Broadway shows, that's where he did summer stock, but only within the last decade.
That's hilarious. So this was 73.
Okay.
No. I'm wrong. This was 75, like 76, 77.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's you and Faith Prince just
we cleaned out the urinals for the strike chore. The show closes. We did Pippin. She was the grandma, and I played Catherine. And we had a strike duties at the close of the show, and had to clean up. And then I saw her in the unemployment line like 2 years or a year later. It was insane.
Dreams do come true.
Right? It's insane. Let's see. From summer stock, then between summer stock and New York, there was getting my union card at the Marriott Lincolnshire Theater.
Really?
Where I did Camelot, and because I knew Kerry Walker. He ran the Harlequin Dinner Theater. He was one of the owners, one of the founders of it early on, and then he started the Marriott. I don't know what year. But that's where I did Camelot, and then I did a Rodgers and Hart thing, and then I did Maria and the Sound of Music, and I met a dear friend, and we kind of moved to New York sort of together in the following fall. It would be the fall of 80 that I moved to New York. We had an apartment for 4 years, and she was doing a movie, and then there was a fire, and we, I had to move somewhere else, and during those first 4 years, let's say, what I was doing was going to a zillion cattle calls. Sure. And so from 80 to I was doing it for quite a while, actually. But my first Broadway show came in 82, and I had been, I went to an open call, which, you got up at the crack of ass for.
Sure.
And
still a thing.
This was for, is it?
It's still a thing, yes.
Crazy.
It's crazy. I have not in a minute, but yes, it's still
crazy.
A thing.
So let's see. I had to
now, but this is like early 80s, so this is like your cattle calls are probably at theaters, not Pearl Studios.
Well, what Broadway theaters, that's right. But I should really say that, my first job actually was a national tour. I should give you just a little back. So I moved in 80. So I went to all these cattle calls that fall. And this is kind of a good story. So I go to Oklahoma, cattle call, and I was typed out. Do they do that still? They type you in
Yes.
or out based on how you look?
Still, yep.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, and
And
you when you're first starting out, you're like, I can't believe they typed me out. And then the older you get, they're like, I'm so glad they typed me out. If they're not even going to consider me, why waste my time? I'm out of here. Give me my headshot back.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, oh, that's just brutal way to go through life or try and get a job. But what happened was I was typed out that day. 2 days later, they had the same call. They were still looking for people. So I went back and I wore the same thing and I was typed in and I sang my 8 bars of Wait Till You See Him. And I got my first job having just moved to New York, and I booked, and I was on the road with Oklahoma on the national tour. It was for, I was there for about 10 months and I was in the rehearsal room with Agnes friggin' DeMille.
No, come on.
Totally. And it was mind blowing. It was like such an epiphany of like how brutal the business is, because there was one rehearsal. I knew a gal, a ballet dancer from Maryland, Cindy, and she was one of the Many a New Day girls. Sure. And in this particular rehearsal, Agnes DeMille was sitting in, and she was in a wheelchair then in 80. And she had her cane, and they're doing their Many a New Day dance break, and she taps on her cane. She goes, Cindy, you're out. Sally, you're in, or whoever replaced you, like that. And I was like, what? You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, crazy. Anyway,
that's old school.
Yeah, very old school. And then I had a solo in Oklahoma. Then out of your dreams you'll go. Right. So that's the solo line that I had in Out of My Dreams.
Yeah.
And at one point, the director in rehearsal, because I wanted to move towards her as I sang, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, well, "I'm just moving." No.
Instinct.
You sing, you act, you dance. Like you don't put them together.
Yeah, you're like, well, wait, this is Oklahoma. This is the show that put them all together. And he's like, no.
But it was one of those things where, this was post-Broadway run. And so you had the blocking was exact. The lighting, all of the elements were exact. Yeah, there was no messing with it. Anyway, so that was that story. So cut to my first Broadway show in 82. So I was doing I was kind of waitressing and going to do like regional theater here and there. Yeah. And there was an open call for something called Rock and Roll, the first 5,000 years.
Sure.
And I did my best share, and Joan Baez and Grace Slick. Okay. I did those as my audition. Yeah. And I remember that I had bought these Dan Post cowboy boots, these beautiful cowboy boots, when I was on the road with Oklahoma, because I was making some money, right?
Sure.
And I wear these boots in for that cattle call. I don't know why. I don't know why I would wear those boots. But anyway,
I mean, you feel good, and it's like the show is not Oklahoma, so it's or not. It's a rock show, so you're like, I'm doing me. I'm being Barbara.
I guess whatever I did, I must have had another pair of shoes, because I left my new very expensive Dan Post cowboy boots at the Belasco Theater when I was there all day for that open call. I had to say goodbye to the boots, but I got my first Broadway show, and I did Joan Baez and Grace Slick. And the show was just a couple stories from this show. It had many weeks of previews, and we closed after 2 weeks. So that was sort of
it's one of the notorious flops.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's notorious indeed. And now the second day of rehearsal, there was this woman, this blonde woman, and I just said, "Hi, I'm Barbara Walsh." She goes, "Hi, I'm Madonna. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm signing a recording contract with Columbia." And I went, "Okay." And that was that.
And it was Madonna, and she did.
Yeah, and she was gone. That's exactly right.
The so confidence. Strange. I love that. Yeah, so what a strange. Funny.
And aside from that, there were people doing lots of cocaine and stuff. And I'm like, what's happening to my life? Yeah. People are like, and there's someone even OD'd. It's like, because there's a lot of musicians, like some serious musicians, sure. As opposed to theater. Yeah. It was an ad.
Who just happened to be doing Oh, sure, one of those. So they just happen to be doing Broadway. You're like, you just happen to be here.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And you're just like, I'm so excited to be here. Okay, so
I
then 2
know.
weeks later it
So I was
closes and you're like,
devastated. I was like, I had a nervous breakdown. I was so upset. I was so upset. And then I go back to like doing more auditions, EPAs, getting work in the regions, museum theater in Richmond, Virginia, a couple of other places. And then there was a series of 9 auditions for the Broadway musical 9 to replace those girls. That show was there for 2 years. And so finally, between the Forbidden Broadway came along because, as I say,
you were great at mimicking, yeah.
And so that happened, but I would go into that, and then I go get work out of town, like that paid better, and I'd come into it. Meanwhile, I'm also waitressing, and I'm working under the table as a waitress, and so I can come and go from that job too. But the 9 job came through for me. And
which is at the 46th Street Theater now, the Richard Rodgers. That's
correct. That's correct. Yeah. So and then after that, I did the last 5 months on Broadway, and then I went on the road with it for 5-6 months. Yeah. So that was it was a great job. I covered Louisa on the road. I never went on. The woman playing it, like she was 5 minutes to 8, and she wasn't there, and I was ready. And she came in and she got to go on, and the entire company was furious.
The worst.
As well, the
worst. Right? Like, come on. Oh, it's my, yeah.
One thing that Forbidden Broadway gave me was a Hirschfeld. Do you want to see it? If I turn this around.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Oh, chin soul. Can you see my Hirschfeld?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's from Forbidden Broadway. And that's kind of a cool thing. What happened was, you're much too young, but maybe knowing some, theater Broadway lore or whatever.
Yeah, I know some
You may
things.
have heard of Enid Nemi. Enid Nemi wrote something called the Broadway column every Friday. And the person who had the interview got the Hirschfeld, or maybe it was the chicken or the egg. I don't know which came first, but
sure.
So I was getting a lot of attention and good reviews for Forbidden Broadway. And then, so that was kind of a breakout moment. And then I got that column, and, I remember one of my mother's sister, my aunt Elton, she was horrified because the end of that interview with Enid, I said, we were talking about living in New York, and she said, well, what do you think is, what your luck has been like? And I said something to the effect of, well, if you live in New York and you can buy toilet paper, you're lucky. I'm lucky. So I didn't think anything of it really. It just kind of flew out. And she thought it was so gauche and just horrifying. But that's okay. So that was the Forbidden Broadway and 9, and what happened after that? That was, let's see, 9.
So then it's going really well. Hey, Barbara, do me a technical thing. Swap your ear microphone. Yeah, do that. Nailed it.
Oh, has it been scratchy the whole time?
So it's just slightly. No, just here and there. Yeah,
is that better? It. Oh no,
you're glorious.
I'm still hearing a
little
you're staticky. Great. All right. Anyway,
but now, great.
It's okay. So let's see, where are we? We're 9 and yada yada yada. So now at 89. So I'm waiting tables, and I'm again regional theater, various and assorted things. I can't think of anything beyond Richmond, Virginia, because I worked there twice with regional theater, but I'm sure there were other things. And then
where does Falsettos fall? This is like Falsettos.
I'm leading up
to. So it feels like the gates are funneling towards you, where you're getting pressed. People are noticing. You're booking bigger things.
Yeah.
And then do you feel that that's hurting you towards this Falsettos moment?
I don't know if I don't know. I think just like getting out there and not giving up was helpful. When I wanted to.
And having toilet paper.
Yeah. And barely. I mean, in New York was a big thing to acclimate myself to for many, many, many years. It took getting more established, and then actually finally finding my husband Jack to feel like it was really, really home, But that aside, 40 years later, I'm very happy. So in '89, I did I did ensemble in the tour of Les Mis.
Really?
And I went on the road for a good, like, it was another like 10 or 11 months. And I
Yeah.
went on as Cosette and I went on as Fantine, and there are stories galore that I won't even share
Sure.
because they're insane.
I'm
But I
sure.
actually had a ball. I paid my parents back some money. And then my mother died during that, and that was really significant. And when I got
Yeah.
back from her funeral, the Cosette was out, and playing Cosette, for actually 2 weeks before she came back. And when Cosette's father dies at the end, there was this moment of like, okay, I can let it all purge right here in front of everybody, and it's just fine. It was a massive first loss for all of us. But anyway,
Wow.
so that's '89. '90, I did the national tour of chess. I played Svetlana, and Carolee Carmelo was
Come on.
Florence, whatever her name is.
Florence,
Yeah. We sang I Know I'm So Well. Yeah, we had a great
yeah.
time.
No, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I know, crazy,
Oh,
right?
what
Yeah.
that would be like.
I also replaced Carolee in the Les Mis tour. So Carolee and I have been full circle, through a lot of different things. I love her.
Sure.
Anyway, and so yeah, so let's see, 91, I was doing a Cadillac Industrial with Beth Level in, oh God, what city? Detroit, of all places. By
where I grew up.
Cadillac, with this choreography and the schmutz, and it's just like cars coming out of a pool. It was madness. It was just madness. But we managed to have a ball, and I came back from that, and I went to a call. I had agents. The agents came during Forbidden Broadway. That's when I got representation after being in New York for 6 years without representation. So no more cattle calls, which was a really good thing.
Yeah.
So I come back, and there's a call for Falsettos at Hartford Stage that Graziella Daniele is directing. And I went in for that, and my agent called me like a half an hour later. And he said, "You're going to get this, the female lead in this." I'm like, "Oh, well, great. Okay." And I actually had to leave for the Cadillac thing, and then come back, and then I was back in the show. And so I have to say, working with Graziella, and not only doing Falsettos, but working with Graziella in that Hartford Stage company with Evan Pappas and Adam Heller and Andrea Frierson and Joanne oh God, I can't remember her last name. Roger Bart, it was an amazing experience for all of us. It was just an amazing experience. But that was my first collaboration with Graziella, who I'm mad for, and we've worked with a few times now. Anyway. So in that production, I don't know if you know the quilt story about the Hartford Stage.
I don't.
I'll try and make it as concise as I possibly can, because I know you want to get to other things.
No, please.
But basically, the last scene with Wizard dying revealed a quilt, an AIDS quilt.
Yeah.
And it meant so much to all of us because we contributed names of people that we lost. So we were in the rehearsal studio, and between the rehearsal studio and our apartment building was the shop. So we would walk by and see the crew literally hand by hand, stitch by stitch, building this AIDS quilt with real names on it. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was just like, whoosh, just kind of knocked the wind out of you. And then we get to tech. And it was covered up, or it was revealed by a drop cloth, which just kind of fell down, and it took our collective breaths away in the tech. Yeah. It was astonishing, and everything. It was fully illuminated with Whizzer at the top center. All the lights went out except Whizzer's, and then his pin spot went out. And so it was really, I get chills even just thinking about it. But then when we had our first preview, we noticed the real impact in like the vocal gasp and crying and and that to me was a moment of oh my God, theater is like so much bigger than me, and trying to be, have a career, and what?
Yeah.
It was a major epiphany of the power of the art form and what's possible and all of that. Cut to, that was significant in my life. Frank
Yeah.
Rich gave me an astonishing review. I will never
Which
forget
is
it.
no easy feat. Yeah.
Yeah, he was tough. And then that production was going to be at the Vivian Beaumont. That was
Okay.
the plan.
Sure.
And then there was what I was told was a scheduling snafu with the John Guare play.
Okay.
So I get a call on a Friday. Andre Bishop calls and says, I'm so sorry, but Graziella's production will not go to the Beaumont because yada, yada, yada. And I went, oh, okay. And then he says, but the Weislers are going to produce Falsettos on Broadway with James Lapine directing and the original guys. And I said, oh, well, I'm sure they'll get Faith Prince or Allison Fraser, as they were each the Trinas. First it was Allison, and
Right.
then Faith for March of the Falsettos, or Falsetto Land. Anyway. And then, so that was a Thursday. And then Friday, the next day, Fran Weisler calls and says, well, Barbara, you're marvelous in the show. We saw you at Hartford Stage. Would you like to be in our production? And I just said, oh, I don't know what to say. Is this an offer? And she said, well, it will be tomorrow. And in fact, it was.
Wow.
And that's sort of how that happened. And it was it was an adjustment period for Steve Bogardus, Michael Rupert, and Chip Zien. I think I was an adjustment.
Yeah.
They weren't as much of an adjustment to me because I'd only been in the show for a couple of months at Hartford Stage with other guys. But the beauty of James Lapine is that he approved of my work in Hartford Stage and just guided me to continue in that way. And Heather McRae to this day is one of my dearest friends. Steve Bogardus is one of our dearest friends. We actually we do falsetto reunions, the original Broadway company, every now and again, and we go to Joe Allen's, Jonathan Kaplan, and the whole lot of it. It's just lovely. And
what was it like doing so? Me having not been in the business when AIDS is a thing and people are dying, and you're doing a show that is the first musical really to embrace it, but in a really, to me, a really honest, witty, like heartfelt way, as opposed to the normal Heart, which was very visceral and angry and different. So what does it feel like you're having this epiphany moment of, oh, this is bigger than me, but it's still happening, pretty prevalent. People are dying around you. What is that like?
It's such a good question. At the time, and a couple of years even later, and for several years actually, I'd be stopped in the street and people would say, that show, it changed my life. You should know that my mother is a different person because of that show, that kind of thing. While I knew AIDS was going on, I moved to New York in 80. So, hello, that was the very beginning of its explosion. Right. And I had lost a couple friends, later on. As I say, one of my friends his name was on the quilt in 91, and then a few more friends later on. Come to find out that in the first show that I did, Oklahoma, so many of those men in that company, extraordinary dancers, are gone. So many of them. Anyway, it was devastating back then, and I think the thing about it being, Bill Finn is a genius. The way he made it not about AIDS.
Right.
The way he made it about the human experience, the family experience, the life and death experience, the insanity and hilarity of everything that human beings have to go through at a basic level. That is sort of, the fabric of, or the root of the storytelling is that thing that he does so well. And I mean, I think because and then jump to the Broadway revival, which we were all it was so lovely for them to invite all of us to that. To me, there was nothing dated about this story of a family. The crisis is real, no matter what decade you're in. Nothing dated about it. It's still about a family adjusting. Every family has to adjust. It could be Alzheimer's, it could be AIDS, it could be, someone's murdered. It's like, how do you cope? How do you get through, So I think that answers your question that you asked about an hour ago.
You answer questions like I answer questions. You're like, with that, I don't even remember what the question was anymore.
Stream of consciousness.
No, please. It's really the AIDS epidemic, because I am a generation removed from it, especially in show business. That I remember talking to dancer Lloyd Colbreth, who did a lot of Fosse work, who was in the mix of it all. And he said a lot of us, we're gone, and the ones that survived it, there's a big chunk of the generation who was doing all the shows that is gone and just missing from the fabric of Broadway history, which I had never really thought about, because when you're studying history and you're seeing people, you're only seeing the people who survived it or weren't affected by it. And so I had never really thought about that. There's a gap missing in kind of the
it's actually a big gap. It's like, it's devastating. Devastating.
So crazy. Okay. So then, Tony nomination. Yes.
And that's exciting.
And is it like, had you always dreamed of that? Was that like,
it's so weird. When I think what my dream was, my dream was never to be a star or to get awards. My dream was to be on Broadway. It wasn't to be on television. It was to be on Broadway. Yeah. So I hit that, and then some. I did, some other Broadway shows. And I'm so fortunate, the Tony Nom was an amazing thing. Also a curse, because then, you're like, aren't I going to get nominated this year? Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Everything and then you realize your ego is so like, oh, grow up. What are you, crazy?
Yeah. Sure.
And then you live long enough and you look back and you just laugh, because it's also, all that stuff is really so silly. Because it is about the work and the people in the room and what you are doing. And particularly with the pandemic and the dearth of that, you're just like, oh, yeah. And then you start thinking about, BIPOC and the element of racism in what we've learned. And it's like, we need a long sit down to figure all this shit out. But you're navigating a career. It's what you say. You just want to keep working. You're going from show to show to show. Yeah. And it's easy to put your blinders on, because in order, I think, to sometimes succeed in this business, you have to really focus on yourself and your career trajectory. So it's hard. You do. And it's a bit of a paradox, I think, of, I think a true theater artist is someone who is giving, is generous, not taking from the limelight, but is giving. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a paradox that it's like, it's all about me and the spotlight and that. Yeah. But if you're in the work, it isn't about that.
Correct.
It's because you need that other actor, unless it's a monologue. You need that other actor. But even still, if it's a monologue, it's the audience. You are still giving, in the moment to moment experience of the work. In a perfect world. Doesn't always happen that way. But I've always thought that was interesting.
So then you have like big shows that are, big, I guess the big show.
Yes,
big.
That was a big
like
show
something
for a
like
lot of
that.
reasons.
Yeah, tell us about doing a show. This is, I feel like, one of the first really big movies that people really knew the movie and the adaptation of that. And then it's I've read so many books that Schubert's were like, it'll run for years, and then, well, it didn't run for years.
Yeah.
So what's that? All of that, navigating all that.
Do you know what? I'm getting static, and I'm trying to think, what is that? What is
it
that?
me? Is it you?
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Now. Big came along, and it was magnificent in a lot of ways. I was engaged to Jack Cummings at the time, and he was finishing up his grad work at UVA for directing. And I was in Detroit, and he would join me, and then he graduates and yada yada. And I'm doing big. We buy an apartment. We have a puppy. It all catapults into this like boing, insanity, but wonderfulness. Yeah. And I think big. It was so fantastic in the studio when there wasn't all the design going on. And I'm not saying it was over-designed. I just think that for a show about imagination, the heart of imagination, it was too on the nose visually. And I'll just be a critic here and say that about a show that I had that amazing song, which I still sing, and still people ask me to sing. Stop Time. It's a beautiful story. It was a wonderful cast. They gave us an engagement party sort of down in the lobby of the Schubert Theater. And I heavenly memories from it. Heavenly memories. Wow. It was wonderful. So that's 96, 97, 98, 99. I go to Chicago. I do Mother in Ragtime, which was supposed to be for a year. Okay. But then that was also the first day I got out to Chicago. I was really, really sick with a cold. And that Friday, it had just come out on the New York Times that Garth Drabinsky cooked the books. And so I'm like, what? So
this is if you read I don't know how much of an avid reader you seem. Very intelligent, so maybe you're an avid reader. Michael Riedel's new book, A Singular Sensation, the last chapter is about this. And he interviews Garth, and he says, if you could have changed anything, he said, I wouldn't have put out that big ragtime tour, or I would have scaled it down. It was too expensive.
That said,
I didn't know Mark Walsh was
the original fabric, the original designs. It was heavenly. And that show, Our Children, was my favorite thing to sing. I did it in Chicago. They had opened up what is the name of this? The Oriental now, the Nederlander. Yeah. And it was supposed to be a year, but he cooked the books, so we closed early. And then we had an apartment, a subletter in our apartment for a year, and we had to stay with our friend Heather McRae, the three of us, our two dogs, in a smaller apartment for 6 months. But we helped each other out. It ended up being fine. I loved doing ragtime so much. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was just a heavenly gift of a job. And then that's 98, 99, and 2000 came along, and
this gets us into Hairspray land. This gets us into company revival.
Oh, yeah. We're getting there. I know. I'm so old. So
no, it's great. It's epic. It's really crazy.
Let's see I did a lot of plays at the Old Globe, and where else did I do plays? I did Dinner with Friends, and I did some stuff at Capitol Rep, and
did you always feel comfortable doing? It seemed, because your focus of your main STEM career seems to be musicals. Did you always feel very comfortable in the world of when not singing? And
well, here's the thing that's kind of strange, is that my mother died in 89, and until then I was singing, and but I think that there was always this burden of the discomfort and pain that she was in for the last 10 years of her life, knowing she would die soon. And you're never prepared for that. But it's going to sound very weird. But so she died in 89. in 91, I did Falsettos. There's something about her loss and Trina and me that even though it's a sung through musical, I learned how to act.
Sure.
I understood what acting was somehow. And I didn't like talk about it or write it down or anything. It was like, oh, it was just a release. It was an opening up that I hadn't had before my mom died. That's all I'll say about that. So to your question, I became very comfortable in either area because really, to me, there's no difference. You're singing.
Yeah.
You know, you're technically being asked more, but the properties or the tools for acting are you know that you have one body. You have a physical world, you have a vocal world, and you have a sensory world, and all of those make this one artist. So so yeah, I did a lot of plays. So yeah.
As a vocalist, I guess my question for you also becomes, I feel like Barbara Walsh is known, I'll talk about you in the third person. Barbara Walsh is known as someone, I mean, these epic songs between Stop Time at Big, between I'm Breaking Down. I mean, all the Mother stuff is a different part, but I mean, even company revival, Joanne. I mean, where do you always could sing? The range was always there. Are you chords at steel? You just show up and go? How does that?
I had an amazing voice teacher, and as I told you at that dinner theater experience, I literally would do Winifred at night and rehearse for Fiona during the day. That massively different vocal roles and different roles, which to me is what I really love is playing massively different human beings. Sure. That's the fun. I don't even care about anything else except for laughs. I'll always care about laughs. But when I sang in Brigadoon, then out of your dreams I go, and I cracked, and I thought, oh God, and my parents were there. And I met this woman, Margaret Riddleberger, and she became my voice teacher for the next 30 years. And I learned a technique that I still use. It's very odd. She would come see me do everything. She saw me do Most Happy Fella in the Cleveland Playhouse. And she raked me over the coals. She was very old fashioned. She was very tough, and she would leave me in tears. And it happened more than once. But her technique was extraordinary. One of my favorite jobs ever is playing Maria Callas in Masterclass. I've done it twice. First time at Paper Mill Playhouse. And it's not a musical, but she came to see that, and she finally liked what I was doing. And it was a play, not a musical. But that aside, she passed away in 2009. But I call on her when I'm working and I'm doing the kind of work we did together. And that to me is like so key. That technique is everything that you need, especially as an aging singer. But the roles are, I was born with an instrument, and she gave me the tools how to use it, and I still rely on them. It's a bit of a heft now that I'm older, which is annoying as hell, but
sure, that's life.
It is what it is. Yeah, exactly. But then company comes around, and that's where
do you feel this pressure? Is there pressure of Elaine Stritch and all of that? Is that on your mind at all? I mean, this is what Deborah Monk, I guess, had already done it with Roundabout in 96 or whenever that was. So you're not the first, but
no, I knew there was pressure, and I'd seen the famous clip of her recording and how epic that whole thing was. I think because John Doyle had such a different approach on the show, and because she and Elaine and I are apples and oranges, it took the onus off of me. It took the burden off me. So I really, honestly, it never bothered me. I have a couple stories about her.
Please.
But my audition, I have to have my audition for, John is one of our dear friends since we met each other in 2006. But anyway, so I'm doing Hairspray at the time, and I auditioned for this is how it happened. I wanted my agent to submit me for Joanne, and they said they won't see you. I went, okay, fine. And so I run into Mary Mitchell Campbell. She was living in our neighborhood at the time, and I knew
Yeah.
her since 01 or 2000 rather. She was a friend. And I said, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm going to orchestrate this new company by John Dolan. I went, oh my God. Oh my God.
I want to be in that.
They won't see me for it. I want to get in. So via her, I think, or whatever, she kind of helped to get me seen. And John Doyle asked me I sang the song through. And he was very like, it's lovely. Could you just, I want you to do it like Masha. And I went, oh, like Joanne mourning for her life. Absolutely, that kind of thing. And we took the music out, and I did it sort of like as a monologue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and that was the only real thing that really annoyed me is that I had to look at him. I had to look at his eyes. I'm like, oh, don't make, and okay, I'll do it.
Don't.
I'm not going to say no. I can't. I don't even know you. I'm not going to have a fight with someone I don't know, and I want the job. So sure, I'll do it. And and then like again, it was one of those things where like 3 hours later, you're going to get a call for this, but you're going to have to go back to Sondheim, and then that didn't have to happen. I was just offered. So
Good.
with company came, this wonderful, wonderful new thing to learn about. Not the thing that I learned from John Doyle is that as a director, he does this thing where he just hangs with you. He gets to know you. And what happens there is this lightness and this openness, and just in the entire room, there's no failure. You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
But it's loosey goosey, but at the same time, it has a structure to it. So he's at the helm, and everybody knows it. But we're like, I've never worked like this before. Me neither. I'm always prepared. We're not supposed to prepare. I don't know how you do that. So it's like it's daring you to like not know what the next line is. I know what the line is, but it's a weird trust thing. It's like, I'm gonna fall and I'm gonna be fine falling, sort of thing. That was a magnificent experience through and through. Truly, truly wonderful. As far as when we got to
The Ethel Barrymore.
we got to the Barrymore, we were in previews, and I had a lunch at the Carlisle with Elaine Stritch, and I think one of our PR people, and I forget her name. The woman who was doing the article, I can't think of her name. Miriam something. It was for the New Yorker. That's what it was.
Okay.
And the first thing she said to me was, "You're too young. You're not right." I'm like, well, how nice to meet you. Mind you, I had a wig cap and a scarf on from the matinee. So it was between shows in preview period. And and we just started talking, and I didn't really say very much. She dominated.
Sure. As I can
the way
imagine
she
does.
would. But the thing that I took away from her that was so lovely was that in that conversation was that she said, he gave me I wanted it to be so good for him. I just wanted it to be wonderful. And so that genuine sort of heartfelt need to have it be as good as she could possibly make it. I linked that going back to the video of her in that recording. Is like, well, that's what that was about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she would whatever, but
Sure.
so anyway, cut to, we end the conversation at the Carlisle, and she says, can't wait to see the show. I'm not going to let you know when I'm coming. I said, you can tell me. I don't really, it's fine. Whenever you come, you come. She said, I don't want to tell you. Okay.
Great.
She comes to the show, and the way that I see her is because we're all on stage the entire time.
Yep.
Well, she is in a white pantsuit on the aisle, 5th row, which is like, whoa, it's like the sun is full. and there are no
Correct.
clouds. It's just which is like, and there you are. Okay. And I'm on
Okay,
stage,
great.
and I was
She's
just
here.
on a diagonal straight through, which I wasn't irritated by it. I honestly was not, because, and during the song in particular, I was, directed to break the fourth wall. And so I
Sure.
was often looking at scowls and people uncomfortable, but then I learned to get into the discomfort of that. I didn't look at her. That was a choice not to look at her, knowing where she was. The end of the show, and I'm on the third floor up, and I'm on the way up, and I'm in my wig cap because I've come up from wigs, and I'm headed towards my dressing room, and I hear, Barbara, or Barbara, that voice, and she's walking up following. I'm like, Elaine? Oh my gosh. So I come down a flight or two, and I meet her on the landing, and she takes my face in her hands, and she just says, wonderful. That was so wonderful. And she seemed to really mean it. I just love that. And it's just an unforgettable thing, right?
Yeah.
And then just to end the Elaine moment, at the end, our publicist wanted pictures with us, the two of us. And this is what, which I find so funny, is that she had a signature pose. And in other words, it was right. And it just cracked me. And I was, what's so funny? Nothing was funny. It was just like, you
This
guys
is
ready?
what she does.
We're ready.
Oh my gosh. This is
So I have a laugh with Seth Rodesky about that. It just is so funny. Anyway,
incredible. Your career.
yeah.
There's people that we're not getting any questions. We're getting lots of wonderful comments. So Tom, who we love, he says, what an amazing career you've had. I've listened to you on the Big Cast recording, saw you as Joanne in the Company Revival, loved your Big Triangle solo. It's been so great to hear about your journey. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Caitlin says, Stop Time is beautiful and your resume is amazing, she says.
With lovely people.
Tina says, both Beth and Carolee are amazing.
They are.
Beth Dunn says these stories are incredible. I guess my final thoughts for you as we wrap up is there anything yet that you're like, okay, you've had this incredible career, you've worked with these people, you've been around for a minute, Tony nomination, sure, all the things, big shows, small shows. Is there anything yet that as an artist you haven't done that you're like, what I would give post-pandemic to do this would be my most ideal moment? An original show, a play, a musical, working with your husband, Jack.
Yeah, all of those. All of those. I mean, I would love to do an original story, and I'm the lead. Yes,
Sure.
Ego means nothing.
Correct.
Not for my ego, but if it's the right story and my husband thinks it's tailor-made for me, something original would be a magnificent thing. I've always wanted that. He is a genius. My husband, Jack Cummings, runs Transport Group, just so you know, everyone is listening. I've dabbled a little with Shakespeare. It's terrifying, but I took over for someone in the Scottish play for MCC or Classic Stage Company rather. Last year, and it was illuminating in a lot of ways. And I have a dear friend who's an amazing Shakespeare teacher, and I wouldn't mind being frightened of that. Having more experience doing that. Musicals, plays, I love them both. I want to do all of that. Definitely.
Incredible.
It's an amazing art form, and the notion that the thing that drew me to it was the inclusion aspect of it, and the fact that there is no age. There's always going to be a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, a friend, a whatever. Everyone's involved to tell the story. And if it's black, if it's white, if it's mixed, if it's old or young or rich or poor, it's about humanity. And so that means, it's not a perfect world, certainly, but that is the attraction, that no matter what age you are, hopefully there'll be more less ageist stories, and I mean, whatever's well written is what I want to do.
Sure.
Let me
Yeah.
simplify it. Whatever
Sure.
I'm right for, whatever is well written, musically, lyrically, book wise, it all starts with writing, and then
Telling
the
a
team.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
of course.
am meant to do Lempicka. I don't know if you know Lempicka. It's
Yeah.
marvelous, and I was
Yeah.
headed out to do it at La Jolla.
I didn't know
last
you were involved
spring.
with that. Yeah, I saw one
Yeah.
of the early concerts of it. My friend Greg is the lead producer on that. Greg
Oh my
Noble, I
God!
think.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he's a great friend of mine.
We did the workshop a year ago, December,
Yeah.
and slated for La Jolla. Then March happened, and it was postponed till whenever. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
and it's
the
going to
fall.
be. I think it's going to be the
It's
next big thing.
fabulous.
Yeah,
I hope so. It's so
the
special.
songs I heard. Yeah,
especially
and
right
Greg.
now.
Yeah,
And Rachel Shavkin and Edna Spinoza. I can't even go on about the brilliance of it, but
incredible. Okay,
We'll see.
So we're gonna. That's how we're gonna keep tabs on you through Lempicka on the other side of this, because I bet that's gonna be the next thing. Barbara, you're a joy, an intelligent, beautiful artist, and I'm so glad you could spend this time with us to navigate and go through the highs and the other highs of your career.
I'm happy to.
And best of luck with the rest of this insanity. My love to Jack. And
thank you, my dear. You're very kind.
And
I love what you're doing. Thank you for keeping it alive. However you are, it's very imaginative to me. And
thank you.
I love focusing on the Golden Theater, which we didn't even talk about.
I know. Well, it's okay. Please. It's about you. It's more about you.
It was a wonderful afternoon. Thank you. You're
incredible. Thank you, Barbara. We'll see you on the other side of this.
Yes, we will. Bye. Bye, darling.
Bye. What a joy. You talk to these people who are just starting their careers, or the people who are in the full blossom of their career, or you talk to these people who have done many things. And it's always so fascinating talking to successful artists who have navigated all of that. And what a joy to see the arc of a career and the ins and outs, and how your personal life affects that, and how things come to be. And when something doesn't work out, no, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make it happen. The tenacity, I think, leads to a career that you can see has navigated so many, decades. What a joy. Her husband, Jack, if you've never heard me talk about him, Jack Cummings III from Transport Group, is what I did Once Upon a Mattress as night number 3, pivotal role. You're welcome. And the dance captain. And that's how I first got involved performing with Transport Group, and they just do really smart work. And the two of them are funny. They're smart. I had no idea she did all these impressions, but they're spot on. You could tell even when she does her Elaine Stritch voice. I was like, oh, this is crazy. So I hope you enjoyed navigating any of that with me, but truly what a joy. Jacob, your question is, well, would that be the same Greg from the Ratatouille project? It is. Yeah, Greg Noble is lead producer. He won his Tony for Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. He produced Slave Play as the lead producer, a number of other things. And then Ratatouille, or Ratatouille, was his brainchild. Greg Noble, I don't know how much you guys pay attention to the producing end of things, because you don't necessarily see them. You see their name in the playbill, but you don't necessarily see them front and center. But Greg is on the producing side of things, someone to watch. He's doing really smart, really interesting things. If you know him like I know him, he just comes up with these ideas, and then, like TikTok musical of Ratatouille, he just makes things happen and makes it possible. So I think if we can all be more like Greg and maybe more like Barbara, it would be a better world. Ornament-wise, we finally have gotten our 2020 collection ornaments back in stock. I made those all week. I'm working on the marquee ornaments. They're not ready yet, but I'm working on them. I can only make so many ornaments so fast, you guys. For those who don't follow us, which I think you all do, but just in case you don't, you can always find more info on our Instagram at Broadway Up Close as our last 10 weeks of our journey continues. And then, of course, souvenirs, BroadwayUpClose.com/souvenirs. And then if you do Broadway 5, that'll give you $5 off your purchase of ornaments or whatever. I'm working on some new stuff, so there will be some new products coming out probably in the next couple of weeks. There's something coming out next week that's very small and special, and then some other bigger stuff coming out in February. So keep an eye out for all of that. In the meantime, thanks for joining, as you always do. I hope this, I think this might have been our longest interview. So thanks for sticking around and spending an hour of your Saturday with me and with Barbara and with us at Broadway Up Close. From the bottom of my Broadway-filled heart, I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again on Monday for the start of week 32, which is crazy. And in the meantime, as always, we are officially one day closer to Broadway. I love you all.